Alright, let's look at the weather and what the possible storm for Friday and Saturday holds. Well, it's not much of a storm anymore. Let me show you why. First, let's look at the current conditions. We've got a frontal system draped across the southern states right now, and across the northeast, that's where the cold weather resides. We've got wind chill advisories, wind chill warnings for northern New England. And across the central plains here, this is where we got some really cold temperatures at the moment. And heading up into the Dakotas here, temperatures are really cold with a little bit of frozen precipitation, mainly in the form of snow. So let's take a look at out west here. We got a little bit of rain in the southwest here, and the Pacific Northwest is waiting for its next system. So let's get right into things here in the mid-south. We've got winter weather advisories and winter storm watches here for western North Carolina, extreme southwestern Virginia, and extending towards Tennessee and northern Georgia, mainly for freezing rain of 0.1 to 0.3 inches, which is a good amount of icing. And this would occur late tonight and through the day on Friday. Temperatures will be cold enough. Temperatures are holding into the 30s and upper 20s across this region. And it's just south of the front, just south of Atlanta, where we're in the 60s, and most of Florida's in the 60s as well, and heading on over to Texas. So let's get right into liquid precipitation. Here you can see across the east, across the southern Appalachians is where some of that freezing precipitation is going to occur. That's where you can see up to 1/4 to 1/2 inch of liquid. That equates to that 0.1 to 0.3 inches of ice. And across New England here, you notice the lack of precipitation. That is that lack of the storm that I'm talking about. And we're going to see that most of this moisture is in the northeast and mid-Atlantic. It's not going to come from the coastal system. It's going to come from an Alberta clipper, and I'll get into that more. Across the Midwest here, we have 1/4 to 1/2 inch of precipitation with the next system, and that's mainly the clipper. And here in the Northwest, we got upwards of 2 to 3 inches of rain just west of the Cascades, stretching from Oregon up to the Pacific Northwest, just in the Puget Sound area. So let's get right into this storm scenario for heading from tonight into tomorrow. I'm going to move off the map a little bit here. You can see across the areas of North Georgia, eastern Tennessee, and stretching up towards southwestern Virginia, just mainly south of Roanoke. That's where we're going to get into the freezing precipitation, the ice. And then it's getting up into towards Roanoke on northward, Richmond on northward. That's where we're going to see snowflakes, and on the order of perhaps 1 inch or 2 likely. Some of the mountains of West Virginia could get into 3 inches, but heading up towards D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, Boston, Long Island, heading up towards Scranton, those areas, Allentown, mainly 1 inch or 2 likely. That's about all we can do for this storm. And you can see up through mainly upstate New York, northwest Pennsylvania. This is mainly going to be from the Alberta clipper that comes down. So that's what we're looking at. You can see about Alberta clipper comes down, but if you noticed, the main system that moves off the coast moves much too fast for this Alberta clipper to catch up to. Let's take a look at the potential vorticity. Potential vorticity at 500 millibars. You can see the flow pattern. It is just too far off the coast to really make a difference for the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, and the New England states. So we're not looking at a major storm at all. Perhaps 1, 2, with locally higher amounts, maybe 3 inches at max. But we're not looking at a blockbuster storm. So that's what we've got going on for the Friday storm. It's not going to turn out to be quite the storm that many people were thinking, but it will cause some problems here across the Mid-South, the southern Appalachians, with some light icing. But 0.3 inches, that's approaching winter storm warning criteria, so we have to keep an eye to that, and that will be the big focus with this storm, is the icing that goes on across North Georgia, eastern Tennessee, extreme western North Carolina, and extreme southwestern Virginia. Further north and east, it will be the snow. So we get right into temperatures through the next several days. You can see the cold air continues to pour across the northeast. We got plenty of cold air. The thing is, with cold air, you don't always get the snow. And a lot of this cold air is very dry, and that's another reason that's suppressing this system and suppressing a lot of the snowfall accumulations. A lot of the snow will be falling in very dry air. Dew points running from -5 degrees all the way down to -25 degrees. That's very dry. Then you start to see some warm temperatures move into the picture, And these warm temperatures spread up through the Mississippi and Ohio River valleys for starting into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, and spread their way east on Thursday. Temperatures could be getting up into the 60s in portions of the mid-Atlantic states for later next week. And that will have implications on our winter weather as well as other factors. And so we'll keep an eye on that. That's what we're looking at. But there's going to be another cool down in the offing behind that big warm up. So we've got the AO index, the Arctic Oscillation Index. We're tracking right around neutral, but we're very negative now, and we expect that to go more neutral and possibly AO index going positive. Same with the NAO index. We're negative now. We're not as negative with this index as we are with the AO index, but the models take this also positive. So what does that mean for February? Well, it's a little too early to say because we're not in February yet, but our prediction for February was cold and snowy for the east, warmer for the extreme southern states and the west coast, wetter in the Pacific Northwest, and drier in the northern plains, and above normal snowfall in the mid-Atlantic and New England. We'll have to wait and see. We may change our forecast. I'm meteorologist Mark Molnar. Like us on Facebook at MeteoMark. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Here's a 4-day forecast from my hometown viewers from Binghamton to Elmira and the northern tier counties of Pennsylvania.